Well, good morning, everybody. And thank you to Dr. Pat Hines and the New Mexico Space Grants Consortium for inviting me to speak today. I also see a lot of our industry partners in the room, and I want to recognize you as well. It's technological superiority through the innovation and excellence of people like you that give me and the commander of U.S. Strategic Command confidence in making sure the United States has the edge in maintaining a safe, secure, and reliable nuclear deterrent force, while at the same time assuring our allies of the same. So thank you for the work you do and for working with U.S. Strategic Command. I'm going to begin my speaking broadly to STRATCOM's, I'm going to begin by speaking broadly to STRATCOM's mission set, priorities, and its perspective on the strategic environment, and then narrow my comments to focus on our unique partnership with NASA. The world is more complex than it has ever been. Violent extremist organizations, nation states, and several major powers continue to paint the landscape. The world is like a chess game where we need chess players who can operate in a multidimensional environment with multiple activities taking place simultaneously on a board where they may not fully understand the rules by which multiple adversaries are playing. I submit to you that U.S. Strategic Command leads the United States in this chess game. As a combatant command, STRATCOM has a global mission that extends from under the sea all the way to outer space. The mission STRATCOM is assigned today includes strategic deterrence, space operations, cyberspace operations, joint electronic warfare, global strike, missile defense, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, combating weapons of mass destruction, and sophisticated analysis and targeting. Among those, deterring strategic attack against the United States and providing assurance to our allies is at the top of the commander's list of priorities. Getting deterrence right is hard work. It takes cooperation with others, including all of you in this room, but our success means a safer and more secure world. The point, of course, is to ensure that no adversary will gain the benefits they seek, that no adversary can escalate their way out of a failed conflict, and that all adversaries understand that we can and will, if necessary, respond in a time, place, and manner of our choosing to actors who attempt to inflict harm upon the United States or its allies. U.S. Strategic Command's deterrent capability, underwritten by the nuclear triad of strategic bombers, submarines, and intercontinental ballistic missiles, underpins the fundamental elements of deterrence and affords the United States the ability to maintain strategic stability, a must in this dynamic and uncertain security environment. Achieving comprehensive strategic deterrence and escalation control requires success in the command's number 2 priority, ensuring that our nation has a safe, secure, effective, and credible strategic nuclear deterrent force. This force is clearly dependent on success in space and cyberspace. Understanding the threat environment shapes the way in which the global Strategic Command Force prepares for and adapts to both conventional and emerging threats to U.S. national security. So with those priorities as context, I'll move on to a brief overview of the strategic threat environment from both a technological and regional perspective. On a technological level, ballistic missiles and associated technologies continue to become more complex, travel further, have potentially larger payloads and countermeasures, resulting in better survivability and reliability, and of course, accuracy. As nation states continue to develop and modernize their nuclear weapons capabilities, nuclear and non-nuclear nations demonstrate their ability to employ missile capabilities, as well as cyber, counterspace, and other asymmetric capabilities. These nations often go through surrogates to avoid direct attribution and stay below the threshold of our international community in tolerance levels. While these advanced capabilities are being developed by our adversaries or potential adversaries, their capabilities are becoming increasingly mobile, hardened, and they're going underground. This is further compounded by the lack of transparency with respect to intentions. Flight profiles can stress our sensor architecture and our engagement methodologies, decreasing warning times and ultimately leadership decision space. Technological advances in operational tactics, techniques, and procedures to defeat missile defenses are improving and increasing as we see adversaries using mobile platforms and launchers at sea, on land, and also in the air. Hyperglide vehicle research and development are also challenging our planning calculus. The ability to find, fix, track, and hold at risk these types of capabilities is becoming increasingly difficult. Hyperglide vehicle technology can complicate our sensing and our defensive approaches. Here's some perspective. In 1978, less than 40 years ago, there were 7 nations that could launch satellites. Today, there are 76 entities, nations, and corporations that, through space launches and associated space debris, have resulted in over 18,000 objects into space. We can only expect that number to keep growing. Similarly, we can expect an increase in the number of nations who may wish to deny the peaceful use of space. Adversaries and potential adversaries are developing, and in some cases demonstrating, disruptive and destructive counter-space capabilities, perhaps to exploit what they perceive as space vulnerabilities to vital national, civil, scientific, and economic benefits to the United States and to the global community at large. Assured access to space is essential, yet no longer guaranteed. Critical command, control, and communications, as well as intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, can be threatened by adversary developments in electronic warfare and also cyberspace capabilities. On a regional level, the Secretary of Defense has identified Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and ISIS as our top 5 most pressing adversaries. North Korea has tested 17 missiles, 2 nuclear devices, and 1 satellite launch vehicle rocket engine just this year. Through these provocations and associated statements, they continue to openly demonstrate a flagrant disrespect for international norms of behavior. From short-range ballistic missiles to intercontinental ballistic missiles, North Korea continues to work on its capabilities. In addition to its Taepodong-2 space launch vehicle, North Korea is developing and has displayed the KN-08 road mobile intercontinental ballistic missile, potentially able to reach the United States. It is also concerning that they have openly admitted to testing a submarine platform with the goal of carrying a submarine launch type of ballistic missile. China and Russia are increasingly aggressive in the South China Sea and in Eastern Europe. Additionally, their actions and comments on the world stage seem to condone North Korea's rhetoric and Kim Jong-un's behavior, both of which add to the likelihood of greater destabilization of the region. Our allies in Japan, the Philippines, and Australia depend on a strong U.S. presence and contribute to regional stability. That said, the missile defense capabilities provided by STRATCOM are in place to detect limited nation-state threats and counter threats from rogue nations whose intentions are to harm our way of life. While Iran appears to be following the mandate of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, they continue to develop and test ballistic missiles and aggressively pursue cyberspace capabilities. They launched the Simorgh space launch vehicle in April, which could be capable of intercontinental ranges. Last year, Iran also announced that it had successfully fired the Imad, a precision-guided missile with a range to threaten Israel, and it has tested ballistic missiles against sea-based targets, which means it could threaten maritime activity throughout the Arabian Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. Of course, nation-states are not the only cause of concern for STRATCOM's strategic deterrence mission. There are also non-state actors, including those who have expressed a specific desire to acquire weapons of mass destruction, and terrorist groups that demonstrate through barbaric behaviors they have no boundaries and lack respect for international norms. STRATCOM fully supports the counter-ISIL fight by ensuring that the space and cyberspace capabilities required are in place. In light of these threats, it is fitting that our soon-to-be new commander of U.S. Strategic Command, General John Heidi, led a 2015 Space Enterprise Vision Study that outlines how to make the nation's national security space enterprise more resilient. The vision accounts for the increasing threat to space systems and describes an integrated approach across all space mission areas, coupling the delivery of space mission effects to the warfighter with the ability to protect and defend space capabilities against emerging threats. Consistent with U.S. national space policy, The vision enhances U.S. Space Force's ability to deter others from interference and attack, defend our space system if deterrence fails, and contribute to the defense of allied space systems. One of the most important activities for the command is to ensure that the United States maintains secure access to space. Our national space capabilities allow us to globally navigate, communicate, and observe events where U.S. physical presence is not feasible. Space capabilities are foundational to supporting developed forces and national decision-making within the Department of Defense and U.S. government. Investment in these capabilities underpins and is vital to our national security. The space domain has become increasingly contested, degraded, and operationally limited. The threats and adversaries do not necessarily present all new challenges, but our capabilities must be all-encompassing to be able to respond to newly emerging challenges. Some countries have clearly signaled through their intent and ability to conduct hostile operations in space. That space is an extension to the terrestrial battle space. These operations would deny U.S. forces the advantages of space, which have enabled us to favorably shape events in all corners of the globe. We must adapt to be prepared as a nation to observe, detect, and deter the threats previously mentioned. And this requirement spawned a key initiative, the Joint Interagency Combined Space Operations Center concept, or JICSPOC. The JICSPOC is located at Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado. It combines the efforts of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community with the goal to create unity of effort and facilitate information sharing across the national security space enterprise. In its current phase, the JICSPOC is providing a robust location to conduct comprehensive operational experimentation. It will ensure the space enterprise meets and outpaces emerging and advanced space threats and will provide vital information for national leadership, allies, and partners in the joint military force. It will also serve to enhance the nation's deterrent posture by ensuring the United States is prepared when our space capabilities are threatened. Concurrently, the Joint Space Operations Center, or JSPOC, executes continuous and integrated military space operations, including the routine tracking of thousands of space objects in orbit around the Earth. Presently, more than 1,300 active satellites operated by about 60 different nations provide critical global services in a wide variety of government, commercial, civil, and academic organizations. We recently stood up a squadron to handle some of the generic space situational awareness duties for that Space Operations Center, and we were happy to see that change, given the amount of energy that particular area requires, so the commander can be more focused on operational and strategic space. The bottom line for all of these efforts is, of course, space situational awareness. Space situational awareness information allows us to understand what is in orbit, where it's located, where it's going, how it's being used, and whether it presents a threat to U.S. capabilities or interests. Consistent with longstanding obligations, U.S. law, principles of the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and other international legal standards, our goal is to ensure that space remains a safe domain for all legitimate users. Sharing space situational awareness information and collaborating with other nations and commercial firms promote safe and responsible space operations. It reduces the potential for debris produced from collisions and other harmful interference, builds international confidence in U.S. space systems, fosters U.S. space leadership, and improves our own space situational awareness. STRATCOM has negotiated space situational agreements and arrangements with 52 commercial entities, intergovernmental organizations such as the European Organization for the Exploitation of Meteorological Satellites, the European Space Agency, and 11 nations, and is in the process of negotiating additional agreements. Through these sharing agreements, STRATCOM assists partners with activities such as launch support, maneuver planning, support for satellite anomaly resolution, electromagnetic interference reporting and investigation, and support for decommissioning activities and space object conjunction assistance. At the nucleus of STRATCOM's approach to space security is assuring fellow combatant commands, partners, and allies have the required access to space-based capabilities. As such, STRATCOM successfully led the third Space Situational Awareness Tabletop exercise, Global Sentinel-16, which has become the premier international forum for partner and allied space integration at the tactical and organizational level. The event provided an opportunity to develop and implement processes for partners from Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Japan, the United Kingdom, and commercial entities to collaborate on combined space situational awareness operations. Speaking of cooperation, from the outset of humanity's ascent into space, Department of Defense has supported the United States commitment to enhance the welfare of humankind by cooperating with others to maintain the sustainability, stability, and free access to and use of space. At the beginning of these remarks, I listed our comprehensive set of mission areas, but perhaps the least known U.S. Strategic Command's mission area is its unique partnership with NASA and astronaut recovery. Since the earliest days of the space program, Department of Defense forces have actively supported NASA. Since 2002, following the Columbia tragedy, the U.S. Strategic Command commander has been tasked by the President to serve as the Department of Defense manager for human spaceflight support. What does this mean to those of us here in the room and to the broader commercial spaceflight industry? In short, it means that the Department of Defense, through U.S. Strategic Command, fully supports NASA programs to launch and recover astronauts when they return from space. Presently, there is only one way astronauts can travel to and from space, through the Russian Soyuz program. Two NASA programs under development include the Commercial Crew Program and Orion. The CCP program will return astronaut launch and recovery to the United States, and the Orion program provides an avenue to conduct deep space missions, including a planned mission to Mars. Both are great opportunities for the U.S. to lead in space. Through clearly defined requests for assistance, STRATCOM postures forces to recover NASA astronauts. The Department of Defense linkage to NASA has its roots in the very beginning of human spaceflight and continues to this day with three programs: Soyuz, Commercial Crew Program, and Orion. Throughout, our first priority is the safety of human spaceflight. The Department of Defense and its components are committed to the research and development of technologies and techniques to ensure the safety of human spaceflight as we determine best practices for safely retrieving spacecraft capable of carrying humans into deep space. So once again, I want to thank all the partners in this room from government, industry, and academia who are aggressively working for solutions to our vast mission set. Our command needs your help and your innovative ideas so that we can continue to work to drive for technological superiority in space. Thank you for the work you do to help solve our nation's most complex security challenges, particularly in the space domain, and thank you for the invitation to speak here today. U.S. Strategic Command looks forward to being a part of these symposiums and working with all of you in the future. Thank you very much.